So I think before we get on to talking about November 4th, we should talk about the Oktagon Challenge series, which is, of course, how we've ended up in this place. And I remember speaking to Brian when I think it was just about to air. And
Mhm.
I said to him, is it fair to um, compare it to the Ultimate Fighter? Like, how similar is it? Because that's the only kind of thing we have to go off, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I think from watching the series, the most interesting thing is the Ultimate Fighter. People tend to be, 7 or 8 fights into their career, something like that. But
Yeah.
but with you guys, it's super early on, for most of you guys, and so I think that adds something interesting. Like, how was that for yourself, where you haven't even made your pro debut yet, and yet you've got a reality show going on? Like, that must
Yeah.
be a crazy jump.
100%. Like it's straight into the deep end. But for myself, obviously, I had never made my professional debut. This was the first sort of jump into the professional realm, and it was quite a crazy jump, I must say, going into a house full of lads, having to do challenges, and then having to fight the pro rules. But see, to be quite honest, mate, like it's sort of I had to adapt straight away. You know what I mean? So like with the elbows and the knees, yeah, there was no elbows in my fight and stuff, but the knees. But just the time limit. See that jump from 3 minutes to 5 minutes. It's a whole different ball game. So I was like, I was actually not wouldn't say happy, jumping about happy that I was straight into it, but like it made me have to adapt straight away. And the best thing is to jump into the deep end. You know what I mean? So and that's what I took out of it. I didn't get to go and fight in some hotel or fighting, in a local amateur or a local scene. I went straight into the deep end, man, and I got a lot from that. So it was a crazy experience. I'll say that, like, but it's got me ready for my professional debut, which is happening here next weekend in Manchester in the AO Arena. So, all being well, yes, the match was exhibition, but it's got me ready in terms of my professional debut.
How was that as well, being around guys that are in similar positions? Because I'm sure you have that in the gym, but it adds another level, just being in the show and that you're going to be fighting the other guys, it adds another level of tension. But then to have the other guys around you that are going through the same kind of things, again, to compare it to the Ultimate Fighter, it's a similar thing where
Yeah,
it's a crazy experience for most people to imagine. So when you've got someone next to you that's doing the same thing, I
yeah.
imagine that helps a lot.
Yeah, it does. But like for some reason, man, like you always hear people saying, when you're going into a fight, oh, your opponent's going through the same things. Like he's nervous, he's whatever. But even when I was in that house, I was never sort of thinking about anyone else. I was sort of just trying to keep myself focused within myself because if I started dwelling in the other people's minds and thinking about what they're thinking and stuff, then I'd be an absolute wreck. You know what I mean? My head would be falling off my shoulders. So for myself, I tried to keep into myself and just keep focused on my own thoughts and sort of calm my own thoughts as well because as you said it's a mad situation getting put into a house with different lads who are all trying to get it, they're all trying to get that contract, they're all the tension, the stress levels are all through the roof. So for me it was always kind of keep myself calm and not really thinking about anything else but trying to keep myself calm. But like in terms of just being in the house and like you said, the Ultimate Fighter, it's something that not many people get to do. And for the fact that we were the first people to do it for Octagon, for UK and Ireland, it was a great privilege that we were the first ones, and hopefully the show can continue with the UK and Ireland, sort of Team England and Team Ireland. So it was just you just sort of for myself, you just had to stay calm. You couldn't really be thinking about what anyone else was thinking because it was mad. It was mad to say the least.
Yeah. One of the things that I love about when I saw your fight being announced, first of all, like I think it's great that at the moment, I don't know whether more fights will be added super short notice. I would imagine not at this point, but you are in the prelim slot where it's going to be on YouTube for people to watch.
Yeah,
So it's just like I always feel for fighters when they're fighting for a promotion that isn't so, like if you're fighting for the UFC, everyone knows how to watch it. But with Oktagon,
Yeah,
you'll have to tell people when you can go, it's live and free on YouTube, go check it out. It makes things
easy.
so simple, which is great. But also, I love that you're fighting one of the guys that was on the show because it allows those narratives that were on the show to continue. I'm sure if people have watched the show, they'll know roughly what you're going to say now. But for people who haven't, what is your impression of Hassan through being on the show with him?
Well, obviously, from the very start of the show with Team Ireland, it was basically Team England and Team Hassan. I don't know if he was really a part of Team England. So, me and him had a few um, I wouldn't say incidents or situations or altercations, but there's a few jabs at each other. And I just felt like he didn't really have much respect for me. So, towards the end of the show, I was like, look, this guy's lost. He lost his fight. I lost my fight. Like, let's make a fight happen. You know what I mean? You've got a lot to say about yourself. I didn't like what you said about me in some of the on some of the days when we were in the gym and stuff, and just the way he was looking down at me and stuff. So I know I can beat Hassan, not a problem. There's one thing about Hassan: the man's not hungry. He's got a business. He's got a security company. He was flashing all these big bundles of money. Like 10 grand, man. I've got an empty belly, mate. I'm hungry. He hasn't got what I've got. I'm hungry. So I'm going to make sure that I go and eat. He talks about morning breakfast and all. He's got a full belly, mate. I've got an empty belly. I'm hungry. So I'll be taking what's mine on November the 4th. And, it is what it is. I had to call him out. And, the man's 34. Oktagon don't want a 34-year-old fighter starting off his pro career. And I'm only 27, man, so I only started this game 6 years ago. I've got so much time left in this sport. And as I says, I'm hungry. I've got an empty belly and two fists. That man's got, cars, wads of cash. He's got a business. I ain't got nothing, mate. So I'm going to go in there and show Oktagon that, it was right to take me on and give me this fight here in Manchester, because Hassan's probably going to be going out of the game here come November 4th.
The like you said, the whole kind of Team Ireland versus Hassan, and then the rest of Team England was such a big part of the show. Um, how is that when obviously we only get to see what we're what we're given, right? So how is it like living in that environment? Because from watching it, it seemed kind of like joking but always bordering on tense at the same time. Like it felt
Yeah.
like it could push past that at any moment, which is when you're watching it, we love the entertainment side of it, but I imagine that is it is completely different when you're living in that house with those people, and like the cameras are only on so much of the time.
Yeah, it's a weird one, mate, because you know I hate to say it, right? Even though I've said all this stuff about Hassan and stuff, at the end of the day, we're all fighters, we're all professional fighters, we're all giving it our fullest, like, you know what I mean? So, but at the end of the day, it was Team Ireland versus Team England. So, we weren't going to let them walk over us. They weren't. We wanted to make sure that this was our house. This is our game. So we had to make sure that they knew that we weren't here to mess about. We weren't here to fucking shake hands. Well, we were obviously there to be respectful and shake hands, but we're not going to have maybe walked over. So we had to give them a bit. But like obviously there's a line. There's always a fine line. Sometimes we did step over it a wee bit, but for myself, I always made sure that I was always on the line. I never really wanted to step too much over, because I'll be honest with you, man. If it had been the other way around, say if I was on Team England, or say if I was one of those teams, man, I'd have been kicked out of the house. I'd have been swinging digs straight away. Like, see if any of the boys, like the way we were getting on, if I was on the other end of that, man, I'd have been kicked out of that house, not a problem. So it's that's why I sort of was like, I'm not going to go jump over the line, because I didn't really want to push it too much. But and because it was a stressful environment, it was tense. The fact that the cameras were on you, it puts you in this different mode. Like, you're tensed up, like, so. It's sort of, I didn't want to go around swinging digs from the get go. You know what I mean? You wanted to keep it calm. I didn't want to get kicked out of the show from the first minute. Like, so, yeah, the whole environment brought stress and tension out of it. The cameras being there, Team England, you're fighting for a contract. Even the fact that you're cutting weight and stuff, even leading up to, like, I was for the first week, I came in a bit heavy and stuff, and I was trying to get my weight down, so I was aggy, I was aggravated, I was irritated. So all these things all play up, but still trying to keep the battle, you know what I mean? Not just absolutely exploding. That was a big thing as well. So I think a few of us stepped over the line, but we tried to keep it just there.
Yeah. One of the things that we have as a benefit of doing this when the fight is super close is we know the finals matchup now that is
Yeah.
obviously going to be taking place on the same card. Two completely different people in George Staines and Dennis Frimpong. Having been around both guys, obviously trained a lot with Dennis throughout the show, but been around George a lot as well in the house. How do you see that matchup going down? And yeah, just talk to me a little bit about both guys and what you kind of what you learned from them and about them.
Well, obviously, from Ireland, I've known Dennis for a while, being on the regional scene and stuff, and we fought also. So I've known Dennis, and I know what he's like, and he's very good at what he does. Let's say that. And being, knowing George just from the house, they're totally, completely two different characters. Um, and after seeing what Dennis has been doing on social media and stuff, I do think that will play its part in the fight. I'm gonna be honest with you. I know George he is settling, he's calm, but we did see that he was crying on TV and stuff. But I just think that I think all this abuse that Dennis has given him, it might actually it might leave George. It might let him, what would I say, yeah, like he's a calm person, but I think he might actually lose the head a wee bit. But still, even if he doesn't, I still think Dennis has got the tools to beat George. Dennis is very long, and if George wants to sit and strike with him, I think Dennis has got that all day. And even if it does go into a grappling exchange, Dennis is very long, and he's got very good jiu-jitsu. So I think he'll be able to get up and maybe even reverse it and be on top. So I do think Dennis is going to get the job done. I don't know what round it is because George is a very smart fighter. I'll be honest with you, he's a very smart fighter from what I've watched, and he is a very good fighter himself. So I think it's going to be a longer fight, and I just think that if George does lose the head and all the shit talk gets into his head, it will be a short night for George. But I think George is a very pragmatic sort of calm person in the cage that it won't get to him. But who knows what's going to happen? Dennis can get into their heads. Like even look with the Hassan fight. I think Hassan was beat before the fight even started. So it's a great matchup. It's a great matchup, and it's going to be a great fight. But I do think Dennis does get the win.
Yeah, like you said, I think it should be a great fight, and I love that you couldn't have two, like you said, two more different personalities in this
Yeah.
final, and we've watched them both go through, and it should be fantastic. Aaron, thank you so much for your time, mate. All the best for November 4th, and
Thank you,
excited
bro.
to see it, and excited to see where you go from here with Oktagon as well, because I think it's exciting times for a lot of you guys on the card. So yeah, good stuff. Appreciate the time, man.
Cheers, Ted. Thank you, sir.
All right, catch you later, mate. Cheers.
Catch you there, bro. Bye bye.